Hello, I'm James Fitzsimons, and welcome to the Career Scoop, a podcast all about career progression, advice, and experiences aimed at assisting those who are in career transition. Today, my guest is Rob Muldowney, co-founder of COVID Interns. COVID Interns is a social enterprise platform connecting organizations struggling with the commercial challenges of COVID-19 with volunteer university students and graduates who can help. They have made over 220 successful placements since June 2020. Their volunteers want to make lasting differences in their communities by helping local businesses navigate COVID-19, all while gaining valuable work experience along the way. Rob is also currently working in retail partnerships at Let's Get Checked, managing sales through large retailers such as CVS and Walmart. I'm delighted to welcome you to the show, Rob.
Thanks, James. No, it's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to it.
That's great. So, do you want to just share with us a little bit about your background? I know you're the co-founder of COVID Interns, so you might just give us a quick overview as to how this is materialized.
Sure. So, I graduated from my college course last year. I studied global business in Trinity, where I met a good friend of mine, Paddy Ryder, and we were writing up some notes for our final year exams when we began first discussing the idea for COVID Interns. Paddy himself was looking for internships in finance, and a few of our classmates had also had their internships pulled and jobs rescinded. So we were really starting to see the brunt of the pandemic and how it was affecting people our age. So this was in May 2020, so right when the pandemic was really uncertain. We didn't know what its effects were going to be, but we were starting to see it. And we were just kind of chatting while we were on the phone writing notes over Zoom. It's just starting to gain popularity at that time, and we ended up kind of going on a bit of a tangent about it and coming up with the idea. So really, the idea came from my college course and me graduating around that time. I was fortunate enough to get a job in Let's Get Checked, where I still work as a retail partnerships manager. And I began doing COVID Interns before starting the job with Paddy, and then we eventually expanded the team, as I'm sure we'll kind of touch on throughout the podcast. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. Just graduated from Trinity. That's really where I had the experience to have the idea. And then, yeah, that's my employment status at the moment.
Great, that's fabulous. And being an entrepreneur in college or just out of college, what were your fears going in? And then, I mean, how long now? You're the guts of a year up and running?
Yeah, just over a year. Certainly, and is this kind of fears going into the job?
Fears going in, and now looking back at, they probably, I know they weren't the real fears probably, or they weren't the real stuff that could go wrong. I'm just curious of going into it, what you could see, and then now looking backwards to say, okay, that's not really important. Here's for really real stuff that kind of might have kept me awake at night.
Yeah, so I suppose like one of the things that I didn't really anticipate was starting in a role completely remote. It's hard to get a strong relationship with your coworkers and really understand the non-verbal expressions that they might have. So one of the things is someone might shoot you back an email and you're not really sure what tone to interpret it in. So I found that really difficult at the start, just kind of building relationships and understanding different messages from a tone perspective. Something I didn't really think about, and certainly it's very specific to COVID. Also joining Let's Get Checked, it's a company that's going at 1 million miles an hour. So really keeping up with the pace of change is something. I'd never worked at a startup before, one that was really scaling quickly. So just really dealing with things as they're happening at a rate that's quite uncomfortable, but it's a good problem to have. So I didn't really know to have those fears going in, but certainly I was confronted with them early on. But you learn to deal with them quickly, of course.
That's interesting. And were you surprised with some of the stuff that might have brought to maybe the odd sleepless night, and then some of the stuff that wasn't such a big problem you thought it might be, and you just drove through it? Have you any examples where stuff might have happened around that?
Yeah, I suppose so. I started off in a sales role and I had no sales experience and I didn't really have like a sales manager giving me a sales script. So I kind of had to make it up as I was going along. And I was definitely very anxious about that because I felt like I was inexperienced. But within a few weeks of doing the job, I learned it very quickly. So that's one thing, you definitely learn the skills that you need for the job quickly and you have the supports around you. So it's very fortunate in Let's Get Checked to have those. So that's something that was perhaps a little bit more in my head than it should have been.
Okay. And how about rejection?
Rejection, well, you get rejection every day from the clients that you're trying to sell to and all that. One of the things is, and Let's Get Checked, great learning environment. So wouldn't have received much rejection internally, but on the phones, I suppose you just kind of keep going. The good thing about COVID, so I was selling COVID tests to businesses. There was no shortage of businesses that were interested, so you just go on to the next one.
Oh, that's interesting. And if you look back at your education, say in college or in second level, would you have liked to have maybe a course on rejection and how to work through it?
Yeah, certainly. I think that would be useful, like especially when you're applying for jobs. One of the really key things about COVID Interns is that it offers kind of a new market of opportunities to pursue. Just kind of pivoting to COVID Interns, a lot of people face rejection all the time when they're applying for roles, and you're constantly trying to feel out the room to get all the different opportunities. And I get the sense that a lot of people are very dismayed when they get rejected by offers, especially at the big corporates now that they're, it's so competitive even in normal circumstances, but when they have a reason to kind of constrict the amount of places that are open to applicants, the environment for rejection is even greater. So I think you might be right, and it would be most relevant now when it's so hard to get a job and to get internships.
And what would you say, to anyone who might be listening to this, who might be 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, or could be 32, 33, around staying in a positive space? There will be an opportunity. Keep trying.
Yeah, definitely. Like before I started Let's Get Checked, I was sending around applications. I didn't know when something was going to come through, and I ended up getting something that probably would have trumped every other option that I was applying for beforehand. So you never know how things are going to work out. You just have to kind of keep trucking along, and even the best candidates are going to have some rejections. Just if you keep putting yourself in a position to get an acceptance, eventually it will come. So if you keep doing the right things, eventually it will pay dividends. And that's true for any age group. It doesn't have to be just recent graduates. It can be current students, or as you said, early 30s, anything like that.
That's interesting. And let's bring it back to COVID interns. So that takes up a certain amount of your week. You're kind of doing that part-time, I presume, at night, in the evenings, weekends.
Yeah. So essentially I work a kind of 9 to 6 hour day with Let's Get Checked. Early on in my Let's Get Checked career, I was working American hours. So I was actually working more 12 to 9, doing COVID interns in the morning for a bit. Try to fill my free time with some COVID intern stuff as much as possible. A lot of it's interacting with clients, getting on the phone and pitching it to prospective clients, or maybe especially when it first came out, we had a decent bit of media coverage and we were applying for competitions. So really interacting in that sense and getting those over the line, or speaking with journalists and that. So it was busy, especially at the start, and really it required 9 till 9 shifts from Paddy and then Andrew joined really recently when I started Let's Get Checked. But before that, we were all working very hard to launch it and take care of our clients as best as we could. But now it's all in free time, and it requires a bit of work on the weekend, a bit of work after my actual work finishes. But it's great, and I feel very energized by it. It's not like kind of worn out getting back to the desk after a long day. you kind of have this renewed motivation or energy to do it.
And what are the buzz moments? Are they making the placement or solving that problem, inverted commas, that someone's looking for somebody, somebody's looking for something, and you make the match? Is that the buzz, or and then everybody's happy about it, and there's a bit of buzz, bit of energy comes off it?
Yeah, there's a few buzz points. Definitely, when you make the placement, you get a buzz. But the way we work is we give a grace period of 3 weeks of working with the candidate, and when the business comes back to us and says, "Yeah, no, I really like working with them. I'm going to continue with them," I think that's really the buzz point, because they've gone through that grace period, and now it's going to work going forward. So I'd say that's probably the biggest buzz point. And then also, once we start, we have a testimonial Tuesday and a business partner highlight that we run on the socials every week. So we go back and interact with past clients, past candidates that were successful, and we ask them about their experiences through COVID interns. And it's always great to hear the positive reviews, because it's people's lives that you've helped. Especially as a recent graduate, I can really relate to the students that have sourced roles through us. So when you hear the kind words and how it's just affected their professional development, that's another huge buzz that you get.
Okay, that's interesting, because obviously part of my world is recruitment, so a lot of those words resonate with me. And do you find now you're established over a year? You were saying about 220 placements so far. Type of clients, don't want you to name them, but just give a sense of kind of sectors and maybe some sizes.
Yeah, so we're very sector agnostic. We've made placements ranging from very diverse clients, say charities, recent startups, some tech companies as well, looking for salespeople and marketers. Those would probably be our bread and butter. But we really we've made placements in law firms, which we never really expected. It's just been really diverse. We've placed engineers, graphic designers, but our central theme would be digital marketers, salespeople, some graphic designers with SMEs that are mostly in the tech space, and a lot of charities as well. So we do pride ourselves on being a social enterprise with a social impact mission. So the charities and nonprofits are very important to us as well.
That's good. And are you finding that some people are interns and they get offered a full-time job?
Yeah, no, we get that quite often. And I was able to place a few classmates of mine from college and even before that with some great companies, and they secured full-time roles. So it's always great to see that as well, especially in the climate that's so tough to get a job. If they can convert their micro placement to a full-time role, it's really great news for all involved, and it's a testament to the value of the service that we offer.
And I mean, I know you've been in this position for a year. What have you learned about the shopping list of ingredients of certain companies? At the end of the day, there's experience, but then there's the person. So that person, that graduate or that undergraduate that you're approaching about this job, how do you screen in or screen out? What are you looking for those graduates?
Yes, so it'll be very based on our conversations with the client initially. If they really have a strong culture that they want to see reflected in the candidates that we send over, we keep a lookout for that. We chat with all the candidates that we get in and start proposing for roles. So we do screen for those sorts of things. We do have placement executives that are working with the clients and the candidates throughout the week. And they'll make special notes of that and really offer kind of a hand-picked solution for the client. So if they say, we need someone who's very versed in the kind of Irish or Dublin commercial scene, it's likely that you'll need someone from Dublin or something like that. So we keep all those asterisks at the top of the mind. We do offer the screening services as well. Ultimately, it is up to the business to say, okay, this person is a fit. But the way it works with COVID interns is we'd put you in touch with the candidates, and you'd have final say. There's no pressure from our end to go through with the proposal. And then we also offer that grace period. What we found is the technical skills will get you in the door and get you an interview, but really what sticks are people that are cultural fit and get along with the employer. And with that, there's no substitute for just being agreeable and a good team player.
So it's down to all the human stuff, really, isn't it? That I want to work with you.
Exactly. Like that's what really gets you the offer and gets you stuck in.
So for that, someone like you, a year or 2 years behind you, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, focus as much on the hard skills as the soft. Again, they're hiring someone to be a part of their team. So you want to present yourself as a good team player as well, someone who's going to work well with others for the shared goals of the client or the organization. Of course, you do need to work on your hard skills as well. And now that we have a bit of downtime, or at least we had a bit of downtime with lockdowns, it was the perfect time to do it. But fear not if you didn't. There's still time. If you're in college, we all know that there's time in between lectures, and you have 6 weeks off at Christmas, plenty off at summer. There's always time to add to your hard skills, but it's kind of keeping a balance of both. Don't focus too much on one or the other, because in reality you're going to need a decent mix of both, and then be a good cultural fit, present yourself as a team player.
But it's also the ability to be able to orally present, to actually say, this is who I am, this is why I think you should hire me, this is where I think I'm going to fit. You find now that you're giving some small supports to some of your candidates who may not be there yet, to help them kind of maybe present themselves, their brand, maybe in a clearer way?
Yeah, certainly as we kind of build out our offering, that's something that's going to be a major focus. We have done that, especially with some finance candidates. Paddy, my co-founder, who I mentioned, he's recruiting for finance roles, and of course they have to be really on the ball for getting interviews and progressing through those interviews, because it's such a competitive space. So Paddy's had a lot of, and Andrew as well, they've had great insight in terms of what makes a successful finance candidate. And a few times they've gotten the phone with them and done mock interviews and sent them over some tips and some finance Bible recruiting stuff that they've accumulated. So yeah, there has been a bit of that going on, but certainly we're planning to flesh it out far more as the months go on.
That's great. And have you plans for the next year, or will you be double jobbing? Or I've got to be careful around that, obviously, for you to answer. But I mean, what are your plans? You want to grow this business?
Certainly, yeah. No, we're keeping it going on the side. I think the appetite for micro placements is strong. We're called COVID Interns, but our offering is very much independent of COVID. It's very tricky to get jobs at the moment. It's very competitive, and micro placements can really help you set yourself aside, especially at the moment. Because if you're a student looking to get a bit of experience, you might have to wait till summer to do something in Deloitte or something like that. But if you're interested in digital marketing and you have a bit of time throughout the semesters of a college year, why not do a micro placement in something a little bit more related to sales or marketing, something like that, so that when you graduate, you've got that experience on your CV, and you can be more of a competitive candidate. So that's not necessarily related to COVID. I think COVID accelerated the demand for that because there are a lot of students at a loose end, but we see it still holding up. So long as it holds up, I think there's going to be a space for COVID interns, and yeah, we'll keep it going on the side as long as we possibly can. We've seen it generate a lot of value for the clients that we work with and students as well. So yeah, why not keep it going? And I won't call it double jobbing, because I've got my primary job and COVID interns side hustle, and it's that way for all of the team members. But certainly we do employ those placement executives now. They're salaried, so they're working part-time. The two of them working together in terms of like a full-time shift. So we've got full-time manpower on it. So there's no reason why it can't persist, and I think it will, and to great avail.
No, I think it's great. Tell me about you networking, because to set up a business, okay, you've had the idea, yourself and Paddy, let's have a go. You kind of have an old plan-ish, maybe a bit of budget, because that's what you're told to have. but then you've got to ring up the phone to get the first client. Do you want to bring me through that journey? I'm curious as to how that happened and the story behind that.
Yeah, no, it was huge for COVID Interns networking, because the first clients that we got were through our network. I called up my cousin, and he works with SMEs for a living, and he put us in touch with a few of the people in his network. So we were expanding our network as we were doing it, and we pitched the idea to them, and then all of a sudden we were able to get a few people signed up and start headhunting for their roles. And the more happy clients you have, the more word of mouth and people spread it around. So networking was huge for us getting our initial clients. And we also, the other thing would have been just organic media that we were putting up on LinkedIn, and people liking that. But again, that would have been people in our networks showing support, tagging people that they know that might benefit from the service. So really, it was huge for us. Eventually, word spread pretty quickly about COVID Interns to people who might like it, and that's really a testament to networking, both directly asking people for contacts that might be interested, and also indirectly by posting things online, and people share it around for you because they want to see it succeed, or they know people who might benefit from it.
That's great. And this has all been done virtually, and that's the bit that's quite it's quite brilliant in one level, because people say, well, how can you network virtually? How can you go to people you don't know-ish and say, hey, buy my service?
Yeah, certainly. Definitely one of the things we have said, like LinkedIn's been so important for us growing it. Like, I don't think we would have touched a hundredth of the people that we did without LinkedIn being able to share a message. Not that we ever necessarily went completely viral or anything, but it got shared around to the point that we did have people getting onto us steadily throughout the week, so we didn't have to spend any money on advertising. That's really significant. So it's never been so easy to get the word out online and network with people online. Especially, I don't know what it is about LinkedIn, but the culture is very much that you can just reach out to someone with a cold DM, and it seems like half the time they get back to you and kind of work on something with you. So people on LinkedIn are kind of primed to work together with other people on opportunities. So it's something that I found a little bit surprising, because I didn't used to be the type of person that would be reaching out to people cold on LinkedIn. I think Paddy may have been a little bit more of that because he was going for those finance roles and he was well accustomed to it. But certainly when I started doing it, I realized people are there to help. I was kind of blown away by how forthcoming people were with helping you.
That's a really important point to some of our listeners, is that if you're not in, you can't win. You've got to knock on the door. We had a great guy called Derek Kenny on, who works in Hong Kong, and he runs an international recruitment company. And he talks about you knock on the door. The worst thing can happen is it's not open. So in a sense of you going out there, talking to people and having the confidence to do it, just to say to the people who say, well, I could never do that. What would you say to them?
Yeah, well, you definitely can. And I used to be that person myself, as I was saying. So once you get in the habit of it, really, if you do it once or twice, you'll see the value. One of the things that I say to people that are looking to get the job that we're putting them forward for through COVID Interns is, reach out to the hiring manager, reach out to the head of business, and ask them for insights, ask them for a 15-minute coffee, or better yet, if it's like a suitably sized organization, you can reach out to someone at the level that you're hoping to get in at, get some of the insights, really get the nuances of it, so that when you're in the interview, you feel not only do you come across as very informed, you are very informed and you're making more appropriate decisions about going for the interview and what to say in it. Definitely, I won't ever apply for a job again without reaching out to people in the organization and getting those insights. And then from a sales perspective, not just recruiting, you can't sell to people if they don't know who you are and they don't know what you're offering. So you do have to be quite outgoing with that. And that was definitely a struggle to me at the start. Like, I remember, in addition to calling up the likes of my cousin, for example, I remember just going through local businesses. I'm living in Terranure, so just got out Google and started typing in some of the local restaurants and small businesses, things like that, getting the phone numbers and then calling them up, asking if I could speak to the manager, if anyone might be interested in some help with their SEO or marketing, something like that, as they pivot online in response to the first lockdown. And a few told me to feck off and some didn't really respond, but others said, yeah, no, I'll put you in touch, and ended up having some really great chats and getting some clients in. So definitely, like, it's an asymmetrical bet. I mean, there's very little downside. You get like a blunt message, that's it. And think about the upside. You could get the job, you could get the client, whatever it is.
Yeah. And would you find, and I'm a little bit older than you, is that a lot of people have they might be older or they might look more senior in their position or status in the company. We've all walked a similar journey. So most people, or most senior people, are open to someone knocking on their door, but doing it succinctly and making the pitch the right way. They may open it up and give that advice or give that conversation. Do you find that if it's done the right way, it can be hugely powerful?
Yeah, of course. If you're speaking to people, you need to be polite and kind of understand the constraints of their schedule, things like that. So, you do need to, it's not just about reaching out. You have to know how to do it the right way as well. There are plenty of templates and things like that out there, but of course, eventually you're going to have to use your own kind of social skill and kind of gauge it. I'm not the master of reaching out to people online, but I have been doing it now for months through COVID Interns. So you do find yourself improving at it. You're not necessarily going to write the perfect cold email when you first start out, but a few things, just keep at it and it'll improve. And better yet, to avoid making the kind of first-hand mistakes, speak to people that have gone through it before and try to get as much insight from them as possible in terms of how to do it. There's plenty of YouTube videos, all sorts of things that you can learn from to help you kind of better interact with people that you're hoping to get some help from, or cold email in any sort of regard. Especially for senior people, you do need to speak a certain way to senior people for there to be results through reaching out to them.
Yeah. Because I think they're used to a certain tone of language, to try to mirror that so you get them to actually stop and listen. But that takes, but a little bit of coaching from somebody like yourself would help somebody, would I suppose, make them aware of that, because it's all about awareness of what your audience is.
Exactly. And then at the end of the day, you're reaching out to someone to help you out of the goodness of their heart. They're going to be willing to do it if they like you and if you're respectful. But if you're not coming across as particularly likable or respectful, they're not going to be bothered, are they? So, tone is extremely important, and mentoring in that is invaluable.
What you're getting from this journey, and obviously from your two jobs, is that you get a buzz from it, and there's a great sense of achievement, of having an idea, both of you, and making it happen. And obviously, it's growing. It's very. I mean, most businesses fail within 5 years. Your business looks like it's hugely successful, and then taking it to the next level and next level. You were saying before that you've got to see in a year's time maybe where you might go with this. Where would you like to take it? I give you no constraints. Worldwide domination. Well, let's say Ireland, Europe, then worldwide domination. What would you do?
Yeah, I suppose it'd make a really seamless platform where anyone can go on and search for opportunities in their area, and then sign up to a program where we help them kind of get prepared for it. Really help them maximize the opportunity of applying for the role. But really helping as many SMEs and charities as possible in their recruiting, because at the moment, college students just think about kind of big four and big tech. They might not think about the value of working for an SME where you'll wear many hats and learn lots of things. So, in terms of world domination, we don't necessarily really think that way, because we do treat it as our side hustle, and it's something, we're looking to solve the problem in Ireland and the UK. That's not to say different things haven't fallen into our net. One of the, maybe, I don't know if it's a funny story, but a funny quip that we can make is that we've made placements from New York to Singapore, which is technically true. So I do agree that there's a big opportunity out there for SME recruiting, micro placements, and we'll address as much of it as we possibly can.
No, it's great, and I can still hear your passion and the buzz you're getting from remembering back into some of the kind of stories. We talked about networking. We talked about the business. When you're on the can we get into the marketing bit? Because again, I'm a little bit older, as I said, and I understand how powerful LinkedIn is now. It just is really, it's so powerful, and it gives you access to nearly everybody. And if you approach it the right way, do you have databases? How do you keep fresh with your clients? Is that newsletters, or is that old, or is that posts up on LinkedIn, or a monthly call to a client to say, how are you getting on? How's the COVID intern doing? Do you need anybody else? Do you want to just bring us through what's your strategy around that, or how does that actually work in reality?
Yeah, initially, one of the key things we did well with COVID interns was the brand. Like, we're not branding experts. We're very much just starting out as amateurs, but we knew what we were talking about because we were students with anxieties ourselves. So telling a story around that was very natural to us. I think it resonated with a lot of people because it was authentic. So I think that was important at the start. And then we did get a few nice press pieces, which were great for sustaining a bit of client intake, people hearing about us and reaching out. So we were in the Financial Times and the Irish Times, eventually CNBC. Things like that were very unexpected, but I think those articles came from our story being a good one, and the way we told it was authentic, it was real, and it resonated. So I think firstly, from a marketing perspective, it was kind of getting a bit of a brand together around kind of for students, by students, helping SMEs, charities and startups navigate this really tricky pandemic, which, there's very little positive news in the media about the pandemic at that time. So that was another thing. COVID interns was kind of a bit of a bright spot in an otherwise very, very dark area. And then in terms of sustaining that, we have launched a newsletter, as you said. We are very active on our socials. We post those testimonies, business partner highlights. So we're telling people about the work we're doing, and we're getting our community members involved and engaged. And that's been very key as well. After the kind of the buzz of the initial idea and spreading across across LinkedIn and etc., that kind of subsided.
Oh, that's so. It's online, and I'm thinking also for an individual. So if somebody wants to make their virtual profile, in essence, so it's creating the LinkedIn and having the social media outputs that are aligned with it. And what are the channels that are the most important for candidates in particular, maybe?
For candidates, I've been so hot on LinkedIn now ever since we launched COVID Interns that I'd recommend it to any candidate that's looking to go for roles. Not only is it important to present that image of yourself online so that people can discover you, also if you're reaching out to people, they're going to have a quick look at your profile and see kind of what you are and what you're interested in. So for discoverability, and then also going out and interacting with people to try and get jobs, those insights that help get jobs, as we were discussing before, it's so important. So LinkedIn is extremely important. Like, I've heard about people setting up their own websites and making kind of career focused Twitter accounts, that sort of thing. I personally don't have either, so I can't really speak to that, but LinkedIn is so important.
That's you and Donald Trump.
Really, yeah.
With no Twitter account.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he was axed from his, though. I just never made one.
So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I'm just curious to see, are TikTok, are there any other kind of, you're seeing people are the kind of what I call those more entertainment driven type of media?
Yeah, so with COVID Interns, we do have an Instagram account where we highlight the various people that we've worked with, as I was saying, but also events coming up. In terms of candidates using it, I've never heard of candidates using Instagram to further their candidacy in something, but definitely you can sell via Instagram. Especially, I've seen a lot of edutainment, so education and entertainment kind of fused on Instagram and TikTok very recently. A lot of it's career prep, advice, as well as kind of financial literacy stuff. So definitely there's some quality stuff there. It's not just Kim Kardashian and the rest. You can put stuff up there that people are gaining from an educational perspective.
But you'd have to have a little old plan, a little goal in place while you're doing that. So it all has to kind of connect-ish.
Definitely, yeah. And that's up to the person that's doing it. With COVID interns, yeah, we've got the Instagram, we've got the LinkedIn. I think the Instagram is particularly important for interacting with the younger demographic, whereas LinkedIn is the older. Not obviously, we're a two-sided platform, so we rely on both to really sustain placements being made. So that works for our strategy, as you say, having the two of them.
That's great. And when you were maybe a teenager, did you have a kind of career in mind, to be a footballer or to be a bartender, or is there anything that you always wanted to do, kind of the dream job per se?
Yeah, my footballer dreams were dashed pretty early on. Didn't quite have the talent for it, but no, I always wanted to do something entrepreneurial or be involved with startups. I did know that I wanted to go and do business in college, which I did, and then coming out of college, I'm able to work in a hyper growth startup that just got unicorn status there, and then also have something on the side which is entrepreneurial. So really, my appetite for all that's very satisfied at the moment. But yeah, that was always kind of my North Star.
Okay, but you're putting a few shifts in, so you're busy, and it takes that, doesn't it, to kind of make it happen?
Yeah, definitely. And at the start, I was extremely busy when I was just starting up the new job and we were launching COVID interns. It takes a lot of work at the start, but it's quite front loaded. Eventually you'll get a handle on both things, and you'll be able to kind of carve out more recreational time than you would at the start. But you'll thank yourself if you've got these kind of ideas and you want to put them into place. It's worth the effort that you put in at the start, because you'll look back and you'll have the value that it's created, and you'll be very happy that you did it. So I don't ever look back on COVID interns and think, it was loads of time. I just think, it was so great to do that, create a lot of value for me and a lot of other people as well.
So one of the only downsides I can think is that you weren't able to have a Christmas party last year, because you weren't able to have a Christmas party.
Exactly. Yeah, I will blame COVID for that as well.
But that's not a bad thing to if that's what the only thing you can blame. So this is a hard question. 5 years, 10 years for you, and nearly an impossible question. Where would you like to be? Maybe, and not necessarily career-wise. Maybe the type of company, type of job, how that might present. As in, for you getting up out of bed to say, great, I'm looking forward to today.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a question I don't really have all the answers to, but I think in the midterm, I'm looking to do an MBA. Eventually, I want to be kind of a manager, sort of lead something, whether it's a division in a company or my own thing. I don't really know, but just get into a leadership position or a managerial position. I think the MBA would be important for that, but definitely have a really open mind to different industries, different types of roles. Really enjoying the healthcare space, really enjoying the recruitment space at the moment. So I think there's plenty of other industries that I'd be interested in too. To be honest, it's just where opportunities present themselves.
And how have you grown as a person in the last year? Experience and the kind of worldwide experience, one, you letting go maybe some of your fears, two, and your view on maybe that bigger commercial world.
Yeah, so definitely I've grown a lot since starting up in the new role, and then also starting a startup, you have to be a leader sometimes and really roll up your sleeves. If you don't do it, then no one will. So it teaches you leadership skills, and just you'll get an appreciation for hard work and that you have to put it in. One of the things that I used to be apprehensive about is public speaking or doing podcasts, and here we are. And I've done a few more podcasts beforehand, so definitely growing in that department as well. And then, yeah, just personal responsibility and taking ownership for things, especially with COVID interns. If you don't do it, no one will, like I said. So, yeah, really being accountable to yourself and putting in the work when no one's kind of standing over you and telling you to, when you're just doing it for your team or for yourself. So, yeah, kind of being self-motivated.
Okay. And a delicate question, this. You're looking very worried there, but in a startup, there's a lot of energy. There's things can go wrong. How do you navigate all that between your partner and Paddy and yourself? That okay, sometimes the heat of battle, everybody's got to step away, and it's not always easy. It can't be as orchestrated. How did you kind of learn to disagree and then agree?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that maybe I was a little bit worried about is we're all friends of COVID interns that are working in the team. I thought that might lead to complications, but actually it means that we can resolve conflicts very, very easily because we're all confident that the other person has their best interest in mind. You might see things differently, but you're all coming together for what the team wants, what COVID interns wants. There's very little kind of ego-based thinking. So we resolve conflicts actually very quickly. I'm on a podcast speaking publicly about it, but that's actually the truth. We kind of go away after hearing the other side and then come back and kind of hash out a solution. And it's easy to do that when you don't think the other person has any sort of malign intentions or they're kind of thinking about themselves, something like that. It's all about what is kind of best for the collective. So you just see people eye to eye, even if you're disagreeing.
Okay, that's a very mature response. I wish I learned that many years ago in a sense like that, or maybe some of your, because our company's SME, I get that, but it's lovely articulate how you did it. And so you kind of just, I suppose maybe your generation, I got to be careful saying that, but people they open it up and they talk about it. They're upfront about it, rather than 6 months later, well, you did this and I didn't like it. All that maybe of generations ahead of you, maybe that, but it's lovely to hear that flexibility. I suppose I have two more questions. And my first question is that, I'm repeating slightly, but that kind of 22-year-old who's they've thrown the towel in, they just have me, and not everybody's been able to glass half full over the last year and a half. What would you say to them just to get them to stop, and what would the few things they could just see a little bit of light?
Firstly, I think understand that you're definitely not alone, and it's not a reflection of kind of your value as a person or your value as a candidate. It's so hard to get jobs at the moment if you're facing rejection, and that's kind of taking a toll on your confidence as it would. Just know that there's plenty of that going on, and really, really solid candidates getting turned away for roles. Like we've COVID interns, we've proposed candidates to jobs. They've been well qualified, but just because of the competition, they're not getting it. So they'll get a rejection back, and then they might think, "Oh, I wasn't good enough." But in reality, they were good enough, but someone was maybe just a little bit better, or they might have had one hard skill or one kind of interview moment that set them aside, and stuff like that. It's very much a bounce the ball thing. So don't judge yourself by kind of rejections going back, because you could have been tantalizingly close. So just understand that it's a competitive world at the moment, and you're just going to have to keep going, and eventually you'll find something. So don't be down and out about it, and kind of take a step back and realize that it's not a reflection of you. It's just the kind of landscape at the moment.
But also reach out to your mates and vocalize it and get their opinions and get their bit of energy.
Definitely, yeah, no, and that kind of goes back. Like when you have a mentor as well, it can be mates or it can be people that you say you might see them in a role that you'd like, and you say, I've had a tough time going for roles at the moment. Would you mind hopping on a quick call and giving some insights on how you did it? And confiding in that sense is also going to help you. It's good to kind of not keep things bottled up. It can be mates, that's a great one. And then also when you're kind of putting the work in to get roles, when you're confiding in people that are kind of lending you a hand and extending that hand of friendship themselves, that's also going to help things.
That's good. Actually, I have another question about mentorship, which you kind of provoked there. Have you had a few people over the last couple of years that you've been able to, we're not sure about this, or what do you think about this, or?
I don't get quite what you mean, actually.
Well, like a mentor, like someone who's maybe gone through startup, or you might have a situation or problem that you just don't have the reference point where to start, and you might say, how would you do this? And someone might say, yeah, we'll try this or do that, or talk to Joe over there, and he or she knows all about this situation.
Yeah, so like if you reach out to someone and they don't have the expertise to advise you on it, oftentimes they'll put you in touch with someone who does. So reaching out to someone can never really end. And we were talking about it earlier. It's an asymmetrical bet. The worst thing that could possibly happen is nothing. Best thing is, you get put in touch with the person that does have the expertise. There's been times where I've asked people for advice and they haven't had it, but oftentimes they will put me in touch with the source of truth on it. Again, it's just the importance of reaching out and chancing your arm.
And that's, again, making the cold call or just knocking on someone's door. Well prepared, give the case, and then most people are very, in your experience, most people, okay, I'll try help you.
Yeah, and it wouldn't just be my experience. I think like everyone would remark on that. So it, like, for any listeners that wouldn't be in the habit of reaching out and wouldn't feel like they could, definitely, like, this is something that I think is quite a common theme with people who do it. They're always kind of taken aback by how forthcoming people are.
That's good to kind of. And my last question, I normally ask people 5 words to describe your business journey so far, but let's stay with that. 5 journeys over the last year and a bit. What words would you use?
So firstly, I'd say surprising. We started COVID Interns as a very small initiative to help 10 to 15 businesses, ended up being over 220. So it's been full of surprises. I'd say energizing. I always felt like maybe starting up something in addition to having a job would be exhausting. I found it's been the opposite, and just means that you kind of go into everything with a lot more energy. And if you're really enjoying what you do after work as well, it's just kind of good for your mood. And yeah, no, I've, even when I was kind of putting in big shifts, I always felt very energized. Fulfilling as well. Like the first summer of COVID Interns was completely pro bono. So we were working for no pay, just working to kind of get that buzz we were talking about earlier, helping people. And that was extremely fulfilling, especially when you knew the people involved, just the extent to which you're helping them. And then exciting in terms of the opportunities that exist ahead. So the journey to date has been exciting, but I'm very excited by the opportunities that lay ahead. We were talking about this earlier. Just there's plenty of scope to grow it further. And then edifying as well. I found it to be an experience where I've learned a huge amount about myself, and I was talking about leadership traits. I could go on and on about that because I'd never really been in a position before to really take ownership of something and push myself like that. You kind of face your fears because, if you don't do a podcast, then no one else is going to do it. So I remember the first podcast I did was with That Great Business Show, and I was extremely nervous for it. But I stepped up to the plate and did it, and I don't think I would have done that beforehand if I didn't have a position in COVID Interns where I had to do it. So edifying, where you're learning loads about yourself and kind of growing as a person.
That's great. I think that's wonderful words, wonderful tips. And Rob, I want to thank you so much for taking your time out of your very busy day to talk to the Career Scoop. And I want to wish you all the best in the next year, wherever that may take you.
Thanks, James. No, it's a real pleasure. And hopefully I've said some things that are insightful for some of your listeners. But no, it was a real pleasure.
That's great. And do you want to just give the contact details for COVID Interns? Just the
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're on LinkedIn and Instagram as COVID Interns, but you can reach out to us directly via our website, which is www.covidinterns.com, or you can email us at info@covidinterns.com as well.
That's great. And for anyone listening, whether it be a candidate or a potential customer, I think what I've heard, I've been hugely impressed. I think it's such a great business, and for all the right reasons, particularly in the times we're in. Rob, thank you so much again.
Cheers, James. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Career Scoop, brought to you by Elevate Career Advice and Elevate Executive Selection, Dublin and Bermuda. I'm James Fitzsimons, and I hope you've enjoyed listening. Join us next week for more episodes of the Career Scoop. Have a great day.